Since these murders were committed, people have been speculating about who was the target. Many people believe that the target of this crime was somebody in the house. When this crime first happened and the police started doing their press conferences, they stated that they believed this was a targeted attack. And I believe that came from the crime scene itself and the brutality of this crime. And I believe that they took that to mean that whoever committed this crime had to have known these people because of the brutality. I happen to believe that the target wasn't any of the victims, but the house itself. And there are a number of reasons why I think that I'm about to go over. But I want to preface it by saying that I became more certain about this opinion the more I delved into the Chi Omega murders committed by Ted Bundy. Now, for those who aren't familiar with the Chi Omega murders, this occurred on the campus of FSU, Florida State University, in 1978. At around 3 o'clock in the morning, Ted Bundy picked up a log and entered the Chi Omega sorority house through the back door. He went upstairs and he bludgeoned 4 different women. 2 of them did not survive and 2 did. Now, this crime has been compared to, or the Idaho 4 crime has been compared to the Chi Omega murders for a lot of reasons. And this is one of the reasons why I do believe the house itself was targeted. Because this was a house full of women who belonged to, whether or not they were active or inactive at one time or currently, belonged to sororities. As many people have said about Bryan Kohberger, he always needed to be the smartest person in the room. And I happen to believe that the motive behind this crime was that he wanted to sort of one-up Ted Bundy. And so I believe he modeled this after the Chi Omega murders with the intention of not being found guilty. And the thing is, I think he wanted to get caught. I believe that he left the sheets behind on purpose. I believe that he wanted them to find him so that he could go through this trial, so he could go through this spectacle and through reasonable doubt be found not guilty, because he wanted people to know that he committed it, but he also wanted to get away with it, which Ted Bundy didn't do. Another reason why I think the house was targeted has to do with the cars. Now, when this crime was first committed and people started analyzing it, one of the things that came up was how bold it was for this person to enter this house when there were 4 cars parked out front. Everybody thought that was an incredibly bold move for somebody who many believed was only interested or targeting one person. See, it was only after I started researching the Chi Omega murders that I started to think that he chose this house because of how many cars were out front. I believe he went in with the intention of killing everybody in that house because he wanted this to be big. He wanted this to be global. And that's exactly what happened. So the more cars out front, the more victims, the bigger the news story. And from the people who say, well, why didn't he attack the other 2 roommates? Well, I look at it as 4 cars, 4 victims. He may have believed that he got everybody in the house. Or he could have just been scared off because the dog started barking. Or he was just exhausted from the adrenaline. Another reason why I think he chose this house. If you read this article from the Tallahassee Democrat, the author says And she's talking about the Chi Omega murders. The images are still there. The broken lock on the back door that allowed the killer to enter. The back door in the Chi Omega sorority house, the lock was broken. And many people have suspected something similar about the sliding door in the Idaho murders. The photo of the officer standing at the sliding glass door, the glass door that was open, the way he's standing there, almost standing guard, leads me to believe, and I think this has already been said, that the suspect entered and exited the house through this back door. He was able to get into this door, apparently without doing much jimmying of the lock or of the door, because you would think, based on the timeline that we know, which was roughly 10 to 12 minutes in and out, the time, there wasn't a lot of time here. Based on what we know from the PCA and what Dylan heard, and because of the recently released Linda Lane footage, we know he didn't get into this house probably until like 4:05, 4:06. If he had to wrestle with that door in any way, you would think it would have woken people up. So my belief is, and this is just a theory, my belief is, much like with Chi Omega, an opportunity presented itself. And I happen to believe that the opportunity was that this door, the sliding glass door, was left open, either because Kaylee took the dog out. Olivia said that Kaylee took the dog out when she got home, and we know she was drunk because of the grub truck videos, and maybe she forgot to close it. Or I happen to think the DoorDash was delivered to the back door, and Xana, because Saturday night on a night of a football game, a night of a frat party, was probably drunk too, and she got her food and maybe forgot to close the door. I believe that this was also sort of a crime of opportunity, that he was driving around waiting for an opportunity to present itself. The other reason why I think this house was targeted was because it was a well-known party house, which means there's going to be an awful lot of DNA in there. So I could see the suspect knowing that this was a party house. Maybe he would drive in the area and he would hear one of these parties, and he thought, this is a prime target because there's going to be people in and out of this house. They don't know who's in there. They don't know if I ever could come to one of their parties. Who knows? And there would be a ton of people in there leaving their DNA, so that it would be harder possibly to mask his own DNA, or possibly explain why his DNA was there. Many people think that he would have had to visit this house to understand the layout of the house, and I don't happen to believe that. Not only do I think that the layout, once you were inside the house was pretty straightforward. You come in through the sliding door, you hang that right outside of the door, and you see Dylan's bedroom right in front of you, and the staircase is directly to your right. It's all right there. And I do think that when he entered this house, he entered it to kill women. And driving around that house multiple times, I think he was able to see inside and to see who was there. But I don't think that that's the first time he saw inside that house. Studies have shown that many serial killers, murderers, started out as peeping Toms. See, many people have asked, do you think this was his first murder? And my answer is yes, but I don't think it's his first crime. I don't think it's his first act of predatory behavior. Because, you don't just start out that way. You don't just start out with such a huge crime, such a huge undertaking. I think he escalated. I think he worked up to murder. And I think he started where many killers started, which was being a peeping Tom. And I think if he were able to be around the house and look into the house, he would be able to see who lived there. Another reason I think he may have targeted the house has to do with what appears to be a lack of cameras on the house. No Ring camera. There's been no mention in the PCA about what was caught on the cameras outside of the house. I do think that there were some lights fixed in certain places, but other than that, I don't think this house had any cameras on it, which might also be why he targeted this house. As I said earlier, I think this was all about replicating and surpassing the Chi Omega murders. The Chi Omega murders, the broken door, the broken lock on the back door. Just like Chi Omega, I think Idaho 4 was a crime of opportunity. I think an opportunity presented itself. Now, whether or not he knew that door had problems with the lock, whether or not he could see that that door was open, I don't know. But I think much like with Ted Bundy and the Chi Omega house, an opportunity presented itself. And so that's why he decided to strike that house on that night. I want to hear what you guys think. So feel free to leave your thoughts in the comments, or you can send me a message at characteranalysissubstack@gmail.com.